Hi, everyone. I'm going to walk you through this process of using transcriptions for your projects on an old project of mine, one that I'm technically still working on, but it's from a little while ago, so it might take me a minute to find everything. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is come over here and I see my project and I'm actually looking in icon view. So I'm going to look in my icon view to try to find all of my videos that are my interview. And I'm just going to drag them and drop them onto my timeline. And what that does is that it creates this sequence that has a different icon, and I'm going to call this interview. And then I'm going to go backwards and look everything in my list view. I just want to pull my interview into my sequences folder. The next thing I need to do is I need to go find my audio. So I need to find my versions of my audio, and I kind of have to listen.
After we saw the house, but his job he's the one that climbs out on the very
Okay, so I've got this one. That might be one.
Tupelo.
That one is probably going to be one.
Right, it is. And sometimes
this is probably going to be one. Then I don't know what this is.
With screen off, just kind of sitting up there with the window open when I sit and stand in.
Okay, so this is a different interview that I did, a phone interview to this is a phone interview that I did with her husband because he couldn't make it to the interview. Great. So I have all my audio and then my external audio. You might have your camera footage, your lens hopper, and then down below in A3, you might have even more. You might have another thing of audio. Remember that you can always pull things down to create more gaps. All right. All of this down here clearly isn't synced, right? So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to just drag everything over, and I'm just going to start from the beginning, and I'm going to see if I can sync. So I'm right-clicking, right-click, sync. I'm going to see if I can synchronize all my footage, and I'm clicking audio. We'll see if these ones sync. Great. It looks like they do, so I'm going to listen to it.
I can give him a call, and then we can kind of all right. Okay. So can you let me know who you are and where are we? I'm Casey.
Looks good.
Sure.
All right. So now the next one, I'm just going to kind of move my way over. So I'm pulling one audio file, pulling it over. We'll see if we can sync these ones. Synchronize. And I'm going to just do this to every clip. But what you'll see is that I didn't stop and start my camera and my sequences at the same time. I have this one long audio file. So I'm zooming in with my plus key. When I get to the end of it, I'm going to cut it. So these ones are synced. I can move these on over to being synced, right? And now I'm going to move this file over and sync it with this audio. So I'm just right-clicking, going to synchronize, synchronizing by my audio. I can kind of see that my last audio clip and my last video clip are about the same length. So I'm kind of just going to guess that that is probably going to be the two that sync together. So we're just going to wait for this audio process to sync. Great, worked out good. I always want to test it out. Looks good. So I'm going to just delete in the middle of that. And then yes, so this feels about the right size. So I'm going to right click, synchronize these ones. I'm going to synchronize these. And then I'm going to go here. So now I have all of these things are synced and it feels good. The next thing's so easy. I'm going to go up to Windows, Workspaces, Captions and Graphics. And there's a text file. And I am going to ask to transcribe this sequence. So I think this is going to take a minute. I'm just going to let this keep going for just a second. Okay, so now that it's all been transcribed, I can jump to any part of my timeline and it will read me what the transcript says.
Amazing. It's true. It's hard to find people that are so good at it as a voiceover and
Okay. The one thing that is difficult is that it had a very difficult time switching between voices. All right. So up here, what we're going to do is we're going to export. So right here, we click on that little dot. We're going to go to export, and we're going to export a text file, which is a file that doesn't have any formatting. And I am going to call this my Oliver House interview. I'm going to go to my hard drive, house project, Oliver House, and then inside, I'm going to export it to my documents folder. So I'm doing that. We can go here and check to make sure that it's there. House project, Oliver House documents. There we go. There's our TXT file. All right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to upload this TXT file onto the internet. Inside our documents folder, what you are going to need is a new folder that has your name on it. And inside here, this is where I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to upload my TXT file. And when I double click, it'll open it as a Google document, which is phenomenal. So it's going to open it as a Google document, which is going to be great. And then this is where I can edit and kind of jump things around. So I can just read this and go through and highlight the selections that I want. So every time I get to a moment that I think is important, for example, the house is built and it was designated like this section of it, I'm just going to highlight that. And then I'm going to keep going. Yeah. Some of these really lovely kind of moments that are storytelling, right? And I can just tell like that the questions are me. So I'm not that bothered by the formatting of it. I can kind of look past it. All right. But basically I'm going to go through and I'm going to select and highlight anything that I think is relevant and lovely and beautiful, right? So, yeah, like maybe this. Yeah. So all of these things about the house. Okay. So when I go back to my folder, let me rename this one. I'm going to delete I accidentally made two. So I'm going to move one of them. So I have my transcript. Now I'm going to create a new document in here, create and share. And it's going to be called Oliver House Selects. Or Oliver House Themes. And after I go through and I read every part of my transcript, certain things are going to come up. So I might say origin story. I might say childhood. I might say renovations and upkeep. I might say family and I might say dreams, right? So maybe these are topics and you want broad categories, but these are big topics that in my interview, they talked about a lot, right? So maybe, and then maybe I'd also have like description of the house. So I have these large headers. These big headers. And so now I'm going to go through with my interview. And every time I get to a quotation that I like, I'm going to copy it with the time code and I'm going to paste it underneath the chapter that it is relevant to. So if I go up a little bit, I like this, that it was designated as a, and these don't have to be perfect. So like if there's extra words, I'm fine with it. I'm not that worried about it. I'm like, does this go there? And that goes there. This might go under kind of their origin story with the house. So we're starting to pull the interview out of chronological order and now put it in an order of themes. So all of the selections that you liked, you're going to start to put them in these chapters. All right. Then we're going to go back to our documents. So let me refresh this. So now I have my interview transcript, which is going to be highlighted and selected, and I have my themes document. And the last thing I'm going to do is create a new document. And this one is going to be called Oliver House Script. And in this document, I am going to take my themes document and basically I'm going to copy and paste my themes document into my script. And then I'm going to reorder the clips within each category. So if I have 5 different clips that I like under origin story, I'm going to start to think of this script like an essay, and I'm going to think about which clip should go first. Sometimes that'll be in chronological order, but sometimes someone might say something at the very end of an interview that would be very helpful at the beginning. So this is great because now you're trying to think, okay, I thought of these big, I thought of these really big categories, but maybe I want my film to start with the description of the house. Maybe I want my film to start with the description of the house. And then I want to have maybe their origin story with it, right? And then maybe because they say, why don't they move in with us? That automatically goes into this concept of family, right? So now I start to order all of those clips that I have within each of those categories to start to really build a script that has structure. And this is so helpful because once you have these chapters, you're starting to look for clips that speak from one chapter to the next, right? So sometimes you have a clip and you're like, it's about family. Like this is about the house and the origin story, but that why don't you all move in with us naturally flows into family, right? So this is where we're going to build our script. Once you have this script document, you will be able to see that there's so much repetition. There are so many things that people say more than once or slightly differently. So you can start to cull it and cut it out. And when you're only looking at the words, it's so much easier to remember it in your brain. So we're going to do that. And then once we have our script, that is what we're going to go ahead and edit. Once we have this, that's when we're going to go back to our Premiere project. And let me go back to my sequences. And this is when I'm going to duplicate, or I'll probably copy, right click and duplicate it. And then I'll create draft 1. And I'll double click and kind of delete all of it. And now is when I will just go from my interview. I'll copy and paste the sound clips. I'll go just to whatever time code. So for example, if I'm looking here and I say, okay, I want to start with 2:03:24, then I will just go kind of right up there, 2:03,
Carmichael, Oliver House. The house was built in
right? And I am kind of, if you can see this, let me see if I can kind of like zoom in for you to see it. Now is when I go and I'm trying to find those time codes, but I'm able to see in my waveform. I don't want to cut in the middle of a really high audio wave. I want to go to the lowest point. So now I'm going to cut it.
The house was built in 1848. It was designated as a National Historic Landmark home in 1971. And it's been in our family since 1940.
Right. So, and then I'm going to wait until the end. Cut it, copy it, and this is going to be my first clip on my draft 1. Sometimes when I'm editing my draft 1, I will actually have spaces between my chapters. So I'll have a bunch of clips in my first chapter, a bunch of clips in my second chapter, a bunch of clips in my third chapter, and there'll be a space. That way, when I start to add music and really kind of feel it out, I might want to have music that exists at the end of a chapter to help us really think about what was said in that first chapter. So I kind of do that, then I add my music and I kind of perfect the sound just for my interview. And then I'm going to start adding in my B-roll. And sometimes I'll have gaps because I want my natural audio for my B-roll to be part of the storytelling process. But this is how I work through the documents. And this is how I want you to work through the documents as well.